The purpose of a theory is to increase understanding. Its presentation invites discussion to evaluate whether what's said is valid. If the theory is found to be accurate, it forms the basis for developing practical applications that can make a positive difference. This theory was generated from inside the suicidal thinking of one person. Only those who have had suicidal thinking are in a position to truly evaluate whether it usefully describes their experience. The theory. A person's intense focus on elements of their life that are not in tune with who they are dominates their thinking and obstructs their connection with living as their multi-stranded genuine self. When the amount of active genuine self becomes insignificant and discardable, suicide is an option that could end their intolerable situation. The risk is their intense focus shifts to actually carrying out suicide. Genuine self. Each person is unique in their creation, the space they occupy, and the life they live. They alone experience their internal world whilst living in the external world with all its cultural complexities, customs, rules, opportunities, and restrictions. A person's genuine self is at the core of their identity. It's active when their ways of being, doing, and interacting, and the associated details of what, how, where, when, with whom, and why, are in tune with who they are. They are truly being themselves. Genuine self has different strands that represent various aspects of being human, and each strand can contain many different elements. In-tune elements may be discovered throughout a person's life, and exploring with an open mind by trying new things can be a purposeful quest to find what's in tune. Some elements may be lifelong. Others may be temporary, as the person and their circumstances can change. Along the way, a person also discovers elements that are not in tune with who they are, finding out which can be tolerated and those to avoid. The amount of what's in tune typically varies on an ongoing basis due to the predictable and unpredictable variations in everyday life, affecting different strands at different times. This is part of the everyday flux of living. Optimizing genuine self means the person recognizes and values what's actively in tune and reactivates as much as possible when any restrictions are eased. Being their genuine self is only quantifiable by the person themselves. Other people may observe what they think is genuine, but they do not have access to the person's inner experience to actually know. A person may choose to present a false front for various reasons, maybe to fit in with a group or to get through a situation. There may be a more mellow version of who they are behind what is seen, or contrasting characteristics are their true self. A false front may also hide the person's stark reality of very little in-tune activity. They have almost lost all connection with living as their genuine self. When the amount of active genuine self becomes insignificant and discardable, suicide is an option. Suicide would end the person's existence that has become far removed from who they truly are. How can this happen? Energy profile. The demands that consume a person's energy may be classed as in tune with them, not in tune, and necessities. In-tune elements fit comfortably with the person's own definition of who they are. They are a pleasure to experience as they resonate within the person and reinforce their identity. Not in tune elements disturb and aggravate and are unwelcome. They may range from niggles that annoy to full-scale conflicts that devastate. Necessities are the basic requirements for living. They keep the person in smooth running mode, both internally for their body and mind, and externally for living in a social setting and society at large. Some necessities may be in tune with the person, others may not. The reserve of spare energy is a backup source that can be used when needed to support overall functioning. Spare energy can be considered nice to have if you're lucky, but it's an essential for handling unexpected demands. The energy profile across the groups typically fluctuates over time. How energy is used depends on what's going on in the person's life and how much energy is available. Each day is never exactly the same, as even regular daily activities can vary in their content, and what is learned and experienced can change how something is viewed or done. A person is responsible for generating their own energy. The main sources are rest and sleep, food and drink, and the resonance boost, where some energy is given back when in-tune elements are active. Spending energy on in-tune elements is a sound investment with immediate return. An additional consumer of energy for some people is the intensity surcharge, where they spend extra energy at a high intensity level. High intensity may be used in a constructive way to get things done, but it can also overemphasize what's experienced and disrupt functioning instead of being useful. It's like excessive volume distorts music, over brightness causes glare, top speed increases the chance of crashing. Such high intensity is not necessary and wastes energy. Energy efficiency is about getting the same job done with less energy. Successful energy management relies on a person having anytime access to their energy profile. It's supported by setting alerts for the groups of in-tune, necessities, and spare that provide warnings when low levels threaten how the person is functioning. The alert levels are different for different people and may change over time. Maybe necessities become priority consumers of energy with a higher alert level needed. The alerts are only effective when the person takes notice of them and makes energy allocation adjustments to restore stable functioning across all the groups. When a high level of energy is spent on one group, it may deny energy to the others. High energy spend on not in tune elements may be endured as long as there's enough energy to keep above the alert levels for in tune, necessities, and spare. As people are different, each person's tolerance of unfavourable conditions can affect how long they can maintain such a situation. Low energy spend on necessities may damage the person's well-being. When necessities include their obligations to others, low energy spend may also damage those relationships. A low level of spare energy means there's less flexibility for handling all the person's demands. It can restrict how they respond when changes are needed, and may mean they miss out on opportunities. When energy is denied to in-tune elements and the amount drops below the alert level, the person is close to losing all connection with living as their genuine self. This may happen suddenly or gradually. When there is also high energy spend on not in-tune elements, they are the person's main focus, and the adverse effects dominate how they are living. The depleted in-tune and dominant not-in-tune are a two-hit combination that lands blows to the person's identity and existence. Suicide is then an option that could remove them from what their life has become. When the intensity level is also high, the risk is the person's focus shifts to carrying out suicide, as heightened energy is readily available to follow through with the solution to their intolerable situation. What can help? When suicide is the upfront option, it can be very difficult to see past it. When support is given, the aims are for the person to have accessible alternative options for handling their situation, plus invigorated strength and clarity to assess them. Making changes may be achieved in stages, possibly with a variety of inputs from others along the way. The octowheel has 8 stages that propel the person forwards. As each stage completes, the wheel turns and rolls until the cycle finishes. Stage 1. Reduce intensity. Reducing the intensity level loosens the hold on what's focused on. This allows a wider view of what can be seen as it frees up energy that can be used in other ways to process more of what's around. Stage 2. Increase connection with living as genuine self. Increasing the connection with living as genuine self reinforces identity and presence in the world. Even a small increase in energy spent on any in-tune elements is a benefit. Stage 3. Describe honestly what's going on. Describing in detail what's been focused on highlights not-in-tune elements that are demanding the high level of energy. It can also identify thoughts and feelings that are part of what's experienced. Stage 4. Seek and share. Finding someone to be open with allows the inside reality to be released and recognized. Those who are closest are not always the easiest to turn to, and someone at an objective distance can be an advantage. The expectations for opening up to someone else are they will listen, will try to understand, and will help in some way. Stage 5. Understand thinking and why it's happening. Insider thinking may need outsider viewpoints to untangle it and explain why it's happening. Making sense adds to the person's self-understanding and balance that can provide stability for them moving forwards. For focus-related areas that are not in tune, specialists in those areas can help by using their expertise to add further clarity, plus possible practical options to consider. Stage 6. Plan the next steps. Constructing a plan requires vision, strength, and energy, and the understanding that the outcome cannot be guaranteed. Priorities form the base to build on. Deliberately allocating energy and attention to what's needed adds structure and substance. Stage 7. Apply the plan. The plan becomes reality when it's put into action. Setting off on the plan's first step takes courage. Stage 8. Review what happens. Reviewing the outcome of what happens can occur at any point in the plan. Assessing what's working well and what's not influences what happens next. Adjustments can be made, advice may be sought, a new plan possibly created. Stages may be repeated, as and when required. All stages are under the control of the person, as they are the driver. For example, they may or may not want to use the guidance and assistance of others. And answering ongoing check-in questions can be useful too. What's taking most of my energy and attention? How much of the genuine me is active? What needs to change? How can I make it happen? Closing thoughts. Suicide is not about death, except as a means of handling the current situation. It's about living and why there is the need for the life to end. When someone looks at what's happening or has happened to someone with suicidal thinking, they may see typical patterns or features. But the real picture may be quite different for the individual person. Because every person is different, the detailed reasons why they have suicidal thinking are different too. There may be factors within the person and factors outside in the environment and society in which they live. Only the individual person can describe what's going on for them, what they're focusing on, and how they're responding. And different people may respond to the same situation in different ways. Because every person is different, the detailed actions they take to move onwards are different too. Each person needs to be the main player in working out what they do next. And honesty and an individual holistic view of themselves are essential. Living as genuine self is central to living a fulfilling life. Losing connection with living as genuine self is central to suicidal thinking. Obstructing the connection is the high energy spend on what's focused on that's not in tune with the person. Facilitating the move to carry out suicide is the added high intensity level of energy. Reducing the high energy spend by lowering the intensity level and resolving, or at least lessening, not in tune focus related issues releases energy. This energy can then be used to restore and strengthen the connection with living as multi-stranded genuine self, enrich necessities, and boost the spare energy reserve. Returning from suicidal thinking may mean normal service is resuming for some, but a person may experience barriers to living as their genuine self. When others in society are accepting of difference and supportive of fairness, barriers may be removed. When that happens, the person can truly be who they are, which also strengthens their relationships and ways of contributing. Living is an opportunity to connect with what's inside and out. There's always more for any person to explore, and potentially more discoveries to be made about themselves and the world at large, when given the chances to find out. So, that's the theory and what can help. What do you think?